Good evening, folks, and welcome back to an episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Cleve Evans, aka Startin' Parker on Twitter, and we're joining you today on a Thursday. Usually we do this show on Tuesday, but because we didn't have the entry list out yet, I couldn't do the show. So we had to move it to Thursday and move what would normally be Thursday's episode of Backmarker Battles to Tuesday. So I welcome you all here to today's show. We're going to go through my short little intro. It's a entirely East Series show today. We got our Nashville review and our Flat Rock preview. So big show for the East Series. You guys know, of course, like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on that bell for all notifications so you guys never miss a podcast when we go live. Follow me on social media at Startin' Parker on Twitter. And check out theracingexperts.com for all NASCAR media related content. All right, there we go. Got the intro out of the way early. So the ARCA East Series. We have been, I would say, pretty critical on the East Division. All due respect to the East Division, the car counts have never been that good, really, since COVID. COVID really hurt the East Series. Now, the K&N East Series, this is going way back to the K&N era, they were struggling there too. The last couple years of the K&N East Series were pretty bad car counts. COVID, I would say, really, I'm not going to say put the nail in the coffin, but really severely hurt that series. In 2020, they only had 6 races, and it was pretty bad. It was. I wouldn't even really technically call that a season. 2021 was a little bit better with car counts, but not by much. Same with 2022, and kind of the same this year. And if anything, car counts have actually kind of stabilized to where they were last year. The standalone races can only pull in about 15 cars, and realistically, only about half the field is competitive. And that's kind of been the theme of this year. You got the 5 to 6 competitive cars that run 1st through 6th. You got the full race fillers who run about 7th to 10th. And then you have the filler up starting parks. And it's no disrespect to the series. It's just how you look at the results. Look at all the results from this season and last year. And that's just kind of how the East Series has been. And while, I've praised the West Series and always praised the main series, because the main series is on fire this year with car counts, on-track activity, and just overall appeal. And the East Series is hurting, and they're hurting bad. Hi, Jamie in the chat. Good to see you. But the East Series is not doing very well. I would say, they could raise the payouts, but we've been saying that for years. I don't think they're gonna. Did it hurt the race once again at Nashville? Because, for the longtime followers of the show, last year's Nashville podcast was probably one of the most negative ARCA podcasts I'd ever done. And you guys know me, I never like to be negative. I always try to find the positive in every race I can, but I couldn't. Last year's Nashville ARCA East race, I could not find any positivity whatsoever. And I call it one of my most negative podcasts because the race was no good. Now, was this one a little bit better? Yes. Not by much, but it was better than last year's. I don't think it could get any worse than last year's race. Only 14 cars, and Sammy Smith won by 8 seconds on a half-mile track. That's all you need to know about it, and that's all I need to say about it. So I definitely, looking at the entry list for this past weekend's race, came in with a little bit more skepticism because we did have some more competitive cars compared to that race last year. The cars on the entry list, it was your standard 15 cars that we'd kind of been seeing throughout this year. Venturini did not bring the 55 or the 25. They only had their 2 cars as usual. The 15 full-time car of Sean Hingorani and number 20 of a new driver, Giovanni Ruggiero. Hopefully I pronounced that name correctly, was making his debut. Late entry was kind of Jake Finch in the 1. Tanner Arms and Man Motorsports, they were back again. Dale Shear was back to try to really attempt the race. Stephanie Moyer was back for one of the first starts of the season. Brayton Laster was back behind the wheel. And Nate Moeller and Peterson were getting the first race out for the Dodge, their Toyota Dodge car. Kind of like I said, looking at the entry list overall, you had your 6 competitive cars, the 28 of Luke Fenhaus, the 18 of William Sawalich, 15 of Sean Hingorani, 20 of Giovanni, the 1 of Jake Finch, and the 6 of LeVar Scott. And then you kind of got, like I said, your semi-competitive cars, but will run still very fast. That would be the 95 of Tanner Arms and then the 11 of Zachary Tinkle. And then you got your full race filler cars, the 10 of Tim Monroe, and the 98 of Dale Shear, and the 31 of Rita Goulet. Then you got kind of your starting parks, the 06, the 01, the 12. Not sure if the 48 Brad was a starting park. He did run 87 laps in the race. We'll maybe lump him into the full race filler cars, but that's just kind of what we've seen out of the East Series. Small little packs of individual cars rather than a big 25, even 25 to 30 car field, which would be much better. So practice first off, I don't think anyone pretty anticipated who else would be quickest. I mean, they were fastest last year by a ton, and they were fast this year by a ton. William Sawalich was fastest in practice. But we'll say, though, Giovanni, for his first start, man, he was fast. Only a 10th off, was actually in second. Luke Fenhaus was third. Sean Hingorani was fourth. LeVar Scott was fifth. The biggest shocker, in my opinion, of practice was Jake Finch. They didn't get out on track until late in the session. And even when they did get out, they did not show much speed. They were over 0.8 of a second off in practice. They picked up a little bit in qualifying, but they did not show the winning pace that they had showed in the first two races this season on the East schedule. And spoiler alert, they are not entered for Flat Rock. So all that talk about Jake Finch winning the championship, we'll get to that a little bit later, but unfortunately, all that talk about Jake Finch going for the championship is not happening. Then you kind of had, like I said, your fillers at the bottom. We'll say, for as much as that car is on its last legs, I talked to Brad at Kansas, about, the Chevrolet. And he basically kind of just nonchalantly told me he's trying to get every last lap he can out of that car. I don't know if that car is going to run again once he gets his other Ford done. That car, the Chevrolet needs a lot of work. But, man, I tell you, for as beat up as that body is, that nose is pretty beat up. The car can still go. I mean, out of the 15 cars, Brad was 9th in practice. I mean, he outran 2 Hillenberg cars, Goulet, Shear, and Moeller. He was only – now, like I said, you had the 8 cars. And like I was saying, the thing about the East is you had 8th place Zachary Tinkle, who was 8.83 of a second off. And then you had 9th place Brad Smith, who's 2.4 seconds off. That's a 1.6 second gap from 8th to 9th. That's what I'm referring to. And it shouldn't be like that. But unfortunately, that's kind of what we've expected out of the East Series. But I just wow, for as old of a car as it is, how beat up that Chevrolet is. I've worked on it. I worked on it for 4 hours at Kansas. It was hell. It was. That car is on its last legs, but it can still go. And at the end of the day, it's got a good motor in it. For people who don't know, that was a motor we got from Ken Schrader after the car blew up in the fall of 2020 at Kansas. Brad got a motor from Ken Schrader. So it's a good motor. And at the end of the day, even if the car ain't the best, as long as you got a good motor, it'll go. It will go. So that was practice. Coming into qualifying, again, no, I don't think anyone expected any other result. William Sawalich, again, on the pole. But again, still not by much. Giovanni, very impressive in his debut. Only 3 100ths off in qualifying. That's very impressive for your debut. Sean Hingorani was 3rd. Luke Fenhaus was 4th. LeVar Scott was 5th. And again, Jake Finch, I'm not sure if they had engine problems, but he did not take a qualifying lap, which put him at the back of the field and really kind of killed any chance of him winning or having a chance at this race. And the 06 of Nate Moeller, I'm not sure if they just didn't choose to participate in a practice qualifying lap. Again, this was kind of a test session with the new car, so I don't know if they had some problems with it. Everything was fine for the race. We'll say, though, for Rita, we've been a little bit critical on Rita Goulet, but she actually was faster than a couple cars. Brad wasn't trying in qualifying. Usually Brad doesn't try a lot of the time in qualifying because, we know we're going to be at the back of the field anyway. So if anything, it's just about getting a lap in. But Rita was actually faster than Dale Shear. So, at least we're seeing some sort of improvement out of her, which is good. That's what I want to see. I want to see continued improvement. So we get into the race itself, and it's kind of paint by the numbers of what we've seen out of the East Series standalone races, kind of like Pensacola. The 18 gets a big jump, But the 20, kind of like Pensacola, the 20 is not letting him get away. The unfortunate part is as the run goes on and on and on, because, with only a couple of cars on the track, you're not going to get many yellows. So it's just basically you got to nail your green flag setups or it's not going to go right. And so the 18 gets the jump. The 20's not letting him get away, but over time the 20 starts to fade. And, I guess we can really, like I said, skip ahead 83 laps because, the 18 is just dominating. We had a halfway break, but due to a couple of cautions, they extended a couple laps. It was actually about 105 was the halfway break. But yeah, Sawalich led. Fenhaus, just like Pensacola, and I really say Pinnacle Racing Group is hitting it right on the nail with these long run setups. The 20 started to fade in the long run, and the 15 started to fade in the long run, whereas the 28, just like Pensacola, the 28 started to really come in on the long run. The problem is by the time the 28 starts to come in, the 18 is just way ahead. So even as the 28's running him down, you just run out of time. And I feel like that's what happened back at Pensacola. But, yeah, we get 83 laps in. We have our first incident of the race. The 95 of Tanner Arms goes a spin for in turn 2. The free pass was the 6 of LeVar Scott. I will say, I'm not sure if it's really the benefit for Rev running the same car for LeVar in every single race. I think it's actually hurt his performance this year. I know they've been ran that exact same car at Kansas, but it is noticeable that LeVar's performances, I feel like he should be better than this. I attribute it to maybe Rev not giving him the best equipment that they got because they are focusing on Andres in the main series. Hopefully when we see these combo races, we'll see LeVar's performance improve because I know he's better than that. So they run another 15 laps to the break, halfway break. Update by this point, the 06 had pulled off after 10 laps. Again, that was just a test session with the brand new Dodge car, the Toyota Dodge. If you guys want to know what that is, I'll explain it real quick. So you guys remember the old Peterson Dodge that Tim Richmond ran back in 2019? The white Dodge. Well, they cut the body panels off the car. They put a fresh Toyota body on it, so they're calling it the Dodge. Gotta love it. Wayne Peterson, Gen 4 chassis at its finest. Gotta love it. Brayton Laster pulled off after 18 laps with a fuel pressure issue. Stephanie Moyer pulled off after 20 laps, and Brad Smith pulled off after 87 laps. Rita and Dale Shear at this point were both over 15 laps down at the halfway break. It was, like I said, they weren't horribly slow, but both the 98 and the 31 were still just considerably off the pace and getting lapped about every 6 laps. Whereas about the 10 of Tim Monroe, he was running a safe pace out there. He was probably about a second or two off the pace. He was getting lapped probably every 20 laps. Shout out once again to Zachary Tinkle. He fights and fights and fights to not go laps down. He got the free pass at the break to get back a couple of his laps. I just wish that Hillenberg team could afford maybe a better motor because Van Zachary, he's really laying it in there in the corners. I think it's just, overall pace, I think, is what they're missing, unfortunately. But he's giving it wild. He's definitely giving it wild out there. So we get to the break, and we're down to 11 cars. And like I said, at this point, 11 cars, even on a half-mile track, not much is going to change. So we get back from the break. The 18 pulls ahead again. The 28 falls back. It's kind of, like I said, paint by the number stuff. Jake Finch looks like he's about to show some sort of finally moment in this race, getting up to second place, but then he quickly falls back down the card. And the 15 of Sean Hingorani boosts up into second place. Giovanni falls back to fourth as Luke Fenhaus is now up to third. And we just kind of stabilize here. We kind of stabilize. The 18 is once again pulling away by a very, very hefty margin. And then we have our second caution. I say real caution in the race, third overall. 31 of Rita Goulet spun in turn 1. I actually thought that they were done for the day after this. By the time of her spin, Rita was over, I think, 30 laps down at that point. Not on pure pace. They had a long stay on pit road, but at that point, Rita was 30 laps down, and I actually thought that that might be it for them. I didn't think that they would try to continue. Lo and behold, they did, though. They did sit on pit road for quite a bit more time. They got back going again. Sawalich, again, like usual, will pull a big gap at the start. Hingarani was in second, but again, Luke Fenhaus, that long run car, and I like that. I really appreciate that of the Pinnacle Racing Group. Such a young team, but they have a great mind, and I think the reason why, Shane Huffman, great crew chief over there. Shane Huffman with a long run mentality, and I really like that. You know, and at these short tracks, he knows there's going to be very few cautions. So he's got that long run mentality. That's a good crew chief. Shane Huffman, that's a great crew chief idea. It's just the unfortunate part is that the 18 is so strong, period, that by the time the 28 car comes in, the 18's so far away, he can't do anything. And that's what was happening if we didn't have the 31 spin again. It was going to be like that. Unfortunately, the 18 was just going to cruise to another victory, and the 28 would be, you know, he would probably have a better car, but he just wasn't close enough. So at that point, Zachary had gotten 2 straight free passes, so he was back down to, I think he was still in the lead lap after that caution, but he went 2 more laps down during that last run. We still only had 11 cars. Like I said, we had the 6 competitive ones. You had the 11 and 95 as the quicker stragglers. You had the 10 straggler, and then you had the 98 and the 31 who were, like I said, just out there just making laps, doing the best they can. I mean, I know Dale. I don't think Dale Shear changed tires at all. I think he ran on the same set the whole race. I know the 31 had an extra set of tires, but I think that was their practice set. So in general, it probably wasn't a better set. But we had another yellow on the white flag. It's weird that in ARCA, when the caution falls on the white flag, they rack them up and do a 1-lap shootout. But that's what happened. Rita Goulet. Now note, Rita was 53 laps down at the time of this caution. So definitely a little bit of a controversial caution on whether she should have still been running at the time. 53 laps down, and seemed to be running the car to the point where even at 53 laps down, still managed to spin out. I will say, though, out of every race she's ever ran in ARCA, even dating back to last year, this is the most improvement I've seen out of her. I'll give her that. And I think we can all agree on that to some extent. This is the most improvement out of Rita Goulet that I have personally seen since her first start. I believe that was at Berlin last year. Even then, though, man, 53 laps down and you're still running it too hard to spin out. I don't know, man. That we gotta work on something there. She is getting quicker, though. She is getting better. But man, you know, when it's that many laps left in the race, you really should just be trying to just stay out of the way, run as slow as possible. They're not going to park you with 2 laps to go. ARCA is not going to do that, and just run a safe enough pace to get to the flag. And look at that. We got Zachary Tinkle in the chat. Zachary, we love you. We love you, buddy. So that set up the finish. And, you know, it shocked me that William picked the inside line because we had not seen the 28 on the outside the entire race. And I'm like, you know, that 28's really good launching on these restarts. And if he can get a good run off of turn 2 and stay with him, we might have a photo finish. I'm like, and like when this caution came out, everyone's like, oh, I was chatting with some people about this race. Everyone's like, oh, the 18's just going to win. And I'm like, you know, not necessarily. You know, it's not Giovanni who's in his first start. Hingarani's not the best on restarts. This is Luke Fenhaus. He's raced at Slinger. He knows how to nail these late race restarts. He's used to high line runs. So I'm like, he's got a shot. If he can nail the restart, he's got a shot at it. So they racked him up. And now some people say that the 28 jumped the start. I rewatched the restart multiple times. The 18 just never went. They were in the restart zone, and the 18 never went. And it's like I think the 28 did go before him, but it's not like he leaps and bounds got ahead of him. The 18 just never went. I rewatched the whole race, and I looked at when the 18 would go on the restarts, and the 18, it's like he just never went. So the 28 got a slight jump on the start. I wouldn't say it was a jump to the point where I would penalize him. I mean, Landon Lewis back at Phoenix got a full jump on the leaders, and he didn't get penalized. So I wouldn't even penalize this at all. That's what I mean. Some people saying in the chat, I would say the 18 just didn't go. And then the 28 got a slight jump. And, man, you could really see Fenhaus. He threw that sucker into turn 1, and it stuck. And he got a great run coming off of 2, clears him, and the 18's getting behind him. And I'm like, oh, here comes the bump. Here comes the bump. He didn't bump him out of the way. Mad respect there by William Sawalich. And the 28 of Luke Fenhaus and Pinnacle Racing Group get their first career ARCA Menard Series East win, and just their third career start. Their third career start as an ARCA organization. Luke Fenhaus gets his first win. A feel-good moment. A very feel-good moment. An exciting finish. And I will say mad respect to William Sawalich. Now, he did say in his post-race interview that he did feel like that the 28 jumped the start. But it's like, again, I looked at the restart. The 18 just didn't go. I mean, they weren't far from the finish line, and the 18 is still going pace car speed. And the 28 just says, okay, well, let's go. So I don't understand why he was doing that, but mad respect to the 18 of Sawalich. He very easily could have just full sent that 28 saying, no, this is my win. You're not stealing it from me. And I will say that is mad respect. Mad respect out of the 18. So if I'm the crew chief of the 18 and the owner of the 18, I'm saying, hey, you won that race, buddy. I know you didn't get the trophy, but you know you had the best car. You know you deserved to win that race, and you didn't wreck him. I say that shows great maturity, and it shows, like I said, just good maturity and calmness out of Sawalich. I think if the 28 had moved him, he probably would have moved him back. I think another reason why the 18 didn't touch him was because the 28 passed him cleanly. It's not like the 28 got a huge jump. He didn't move him to get to the lead. The 28 passed the 18 cleanly, so the 18 raced in cleanly back. I like that. You don't see that a lot out in ARCA, but I respect that. I respect that a lot. Shows great maturity of Sawalich. Gives me more respect for William Sawalich. But, man, Sawalich, man, for everyone who thought he would dominate 2023 so far, it's kind of surprising he's only won the one race at Pensacola. He had the best car at Phoenix. He got taken out in that one. He dominated Pensacola. Didn't have the best car at Dover. Wasn't going to win that one. Had the best car here, and unfortunately just got beat on that last restart. So, but yeah, Fenhaus, man, he is such a natural talent. I really hope Luke Fenhaus, he is a badass at slinger. I really hope Luke Fenhaus can find his way into the higher ranks of NASCAR one day. You cannot tell me that Luke Fenhaus, with his ability to save tire and ability to have a long-run race car, take a long-run race car from 4th to 2nd on an old tires racetrack, he would be a beast in the Xfinity series. No, not in trucks. Don't put Luke in trucks. Please don't. Put Luke in Xfinity. He belongs in Xfinity. So I really hope Luke Fenhaus gets a bigger ride in the series one day. Just the problem is, he doesn't have a lot of funding behind him. But I hope Luke Fenhaus one day can get around. Imagine him at Darlington. Luke Fenhaus would be a beast at Darlington. But yeah, congratulations to the Pinnacle Racing Group. Shout out to them. Shout out to Shane Huffman for getting their first win. So Luke Fenhaus wins. William Sawalich second. Sean Hingorani's third. Giovanni Ruggiero fourth. Despite probably his worst performance of the season, still a top 5 finish for Jake Finch. LeVar Scott 6th. Zachary Tinkle 7th. Tanner Arms was 8th. Tim Monroe in his very first full race on an asphalt oval. So cool for Tim. Great to see him finally run the whole race. Dale Shear was 10th. Rita Goulet DNF'd. She did park the car after that last spin. Was 11th. Brad Smith 12th. Stephanie Moyer 13th. Brayton Lester 14th. And Nate Moeller 15th. The point standings following this race. I was going to get excited about Jake Finch possibly still being in this championship battle, but like I said, spoiler alert, he is not entered for Flat Rock, which means he is out of the championship hunt. But we still have a very, very fun championship battle between William Sawalich and Luke Fenhaus. Because of the bonus points that the 28 got for winning that race, it still keeps him in the championship battle. Fenhaus is only 6 points behind in the championship battle right now. So we still got an easy, hard battle on our hands. And I'm telling you, with these combo races coming up, I still would not give it. I mean, when we go to Bristol, my money's on Fenhaus. When we go to tracks like Bristol, my money is on Fenhaus there. He is going to be a beast at Bristol running that high line. The tracks that I'm really excited for them are Iowa too. Iowa with its multiple grooves, and Milwaukee. And you've got to keep in mind that those are tracks that even Sawalich has not been to before. So it's like, even though Sawalich is in the best car, it's the one thing that we talked about at the beginning of the East Series season. Yes, Sawalich is in the best car in the ARCA East Division, but his lack of experience in the ARCA car and his lack of experience at these tracks still gives him a disadvantage, in my personal opinion. Going also through the point standings. So we know third place, Jake Finch, is not running the whole season, which really sucks. I really wished he would have, because he would have had a shot. That puts LeVar Scott realistically in third, but he's 19 points behind unless something happens to the top two. I mean, I would say LeVar Scott, Sean Hingorani, and Zachary Tinkle are sadly mathematically eliminated. Tim Monroe, ironically, it looks like he's going full-time in ARCA East. He is entered for Flat Rock, spoiler alert, but he is actually entered, so that's cool. For Tim, Dale Shear is 8th, Rita Goulet is 9th, and Tanner Arms is 10th in the points. Only 23 drivers total are in the ARCA East standings. Owners Championship right now. Owners Championship battle still pretty good as well. The Joe Gibbs 18 car does lead the Owners Championship by 5 points over the number 28 for Mark Webb, and only 6 points over the number 20 for Billy Venturini. So while we only have a 2-horse race for the Drivers' Championship in ARCA East, we have a 3-horse race for the ARCA East Owners Championship. And you know, those owners, especially Venturini, they love those Owners Championships. So still, while the East Series isn't perfect, we definitely had a better race than last year. Obviously, the finish helped, but there's still a lot to work on with the East Series. And unfortunately, for as much as hyped up as Flat Rock was, it still is disappointing to see only a 16-car entry list. Spoiler alert, as we now transition into Flat Rock. Yes, ARCA returns to Flat Rock. How many of you guys were born by the time ARCA had raced to Flat Rock the last time? Spoiler alert, I wasn't even born. I am 21 years old. ARCA has not run Flat Rock since 2000. So let that sink in. How many of you who are watching the show right now, how many of you were born after ARCA raced at Flat Rock for the last time? So, it's been a while. And Flat Rock's a fun little short track, quarter mile. And, and the funny part I love about this race is it's a 150 lap race, yes, but it's only 37.5 miles in actual total race length. So that's the funny part. It's like you get a fresh Ilmore motor in the car, and you're like, oh, you don't want to put a lot of miles on it. You're only going to put 37 miles on it, realistically. That's what's funny about Flat Rock. It's that small. So, so we get into the entry list here. Like I said, notables. The 1 of Jake Finch is not entered, but our entry list is as follows. The 6 of LeVar Scott, as of course, the 10 of Tim Monroe, the 11 of Zachary Tinkle, the 12 of Ryan Roulette. Ryan Roulette's partnership with Last Chance Racing and Andrew Tuttle has taken, would say, a pretty ugly turn, unfortunately. They are no longer affiliated with each other. And Ryan Roulette has now a partnership with Fast Track Racing. Great to see Ryan run the 12. Sean Hingorani, and I believe that is Ryan's own car that might be running the 12. I don't know if Zachary, if you know, is Ryan running his own car, number 12? Sean Hangarani in the 15, William Sawalich in the 18, and no 20 entered this weekend, surprisingly, but it makes me wonder if they're going to have that car run under the 25. Run as the 25, because Billy Venturini, yes, Billy Venturini, for the first time in 17 years, will step behind the wheel of an ARCA car again. Billy will be in the 20. That's what I figured. That's what I figured, Zachary. I don't know why they have him listed in the 25. I figured, like, why would they not have the 20 run for the Owners' Championship? So, but yeah, Billy Venturini is back in the series. It's awesome to see. He'll be running the JBL car. He was doing some test laps last couple days. Great to see Billy back. He's in great shape for 47 years old. He's not a young guy anymore, but great to see Billy back behind the wheel. You know he's going to have a vengeance. He's going to want to prove that he's still got it. And we know he was kind of a crazy man out there on track. Of course, we got Luke Fenhaus in the 28. Derek McGrew Jr. will actually be in the 31 for Tim Goulet and Rise Motorsports. So curious to see how this new driver in the 31 may be able to improve the performance of the 31 team. Brad Smith Motorsports will be running 2 cars. Brad will be running in his signature 48 Chevrolet. And Jeff Smith, his brother, will be in the 49. Will be in the 49, which is the Ford, which will basically have a badass tape job. Have a badass tape job to get to number 49. It'll be Jeff Smith's first ARCA start in 36 years. Oh, wow. 36 years in between ARCA starts. That's got to be a record. That it has to be some sort of record in between ARCA starts is making your ARCA starts. I mean, good God. Oh, great to see Jeff back. I now know why Brad texted me and said, I wish if I could come to Flat Rock. I can see why. Running 2 cars. I hope they have some friends helping them. I'm sure Fast Track will lend them some help if they need it. But yeah, Brad Smith Motorsports running 2 cars, which is awesome to see. Jeffrey Magzink, he kind of runs the Toledo races and Flat Rock races, so good to see him back. Will Kimmel Racing, they're going to be running a Ford. Great to see Will back out there. I think he actually has a logistical chance at it. The 98, of course, of Dale Shear. Dallas Fruet returns to the 01. It's great to see him back. And Nate Moeller, of course, in Peterson, the 06, running the Taj again, just trying to get more laps on that car. It's a good idea to get some test laps before that car eventually debuts in the main division, hopefully later this year. So 16 cars. Starting parks. I think Brad will run the whole race at Flat Rock. He's really been looking forward to this race. Ironically enough, Brad Smith and Billy Venturini actually had the most experience on this track compared to the rest of the field. So Brad might actually have some sort of upper hand in some wild way. I really think this is going to be a weird race. You know, we're not on a half-mile track. We're not on a half-mile track. We are on a very simple quarter-mile track, very small. You're almost turning virtually the entire time, okay? And so I would say about this race, motor isn't everything in this race. So I think you're going to see some teams maybe not even running the Ilmore, maybe running the Yates. I don't think this is not a track that's about having the best horsepower. This is a race where it's having the best setup. And I look at the crew chiefs list, and I will say once again, with all honesty, I think guys like Hillenberg's cars, guys like Zachary Tinkle, guys like Luke Fenhaus, who have great crew chiefs and great minds for this track, will actually have the advantage. It wouldn't shock me if we see Zachary running right up there with the leaders because Andy Hillenberg knows this track. He knows how to set up for this track. Shane Huffman, longtime crew chief, he's dealt with these quarter-mile tracks. He knows how to set them up for this race. I'm not taking anything away from the 18 team, but at the end of the day, they could be behind the 8-ball a little bit here. Venturini's cars, Billy himself, he's got experience here. He's got a knowledge of how to set up a car for here. Same with Hingarani. I actually really feel that teams like Rev and Sawalich might actually be behind the 8-ball for this race. Now, I'm not saying they don't have a chance of winning. Of course they do. But I don't see them as the favorites. Underdogs for sure. I wouldn't count out Will Kimmel. Will Kimmel has done lots of testing at Flat Rock in the past. He's ran his ARCA car around Flat Rock in the past for test sessions, so he knows what he's doing as well. Realistically, I would say the guys who have a logistical chance at this win, and I really do mean this. Todd Parrott, the crew chief of the 11 car. Yeah, that Todd Parrott, by the way. LeVar Scott, Zachary Tinkle, Sean Hingorani, William Sawalich, Billy Venturini, Luke Fenhaus, and Will Kimmel. I would say you got 7 logistical guys in this field who could win this race. And I love to see that. I love to see that. Yeah, and Andy Hillenberg is going to be spotting for Tinkle. So who better of a spotter to have? But yeah, think about that. You have Andy Hillenberg, a guy who's raced at Flat Rock, as your spotter, and you got Todd Parrott, one of the greatest crew chiefs in racing history, setting up your car. And I got to imagine that Fast Track's probably going to bring one of their best motors or best bullets to this race. I know they've been running the same car all year, but you can't tell me that the 11 doesn't logistically have a chance at this thing. He does. Even Zachary Tinkle has a logistical chance at this, and you love to see it. The starting parks in this race, I would expect the 01 of Dallas, the 49 of Jeff Smith, and I would say that's it because I know Tim is running the whole race, and I would imagine Ryan Roulette's also running the whole race in his car as well. So, and Nate Moeller. So, out of the 16 cars, 13 will be running the whole race. But you got to imagine this. Even with only 13 cars, we're not on a half-mile track where they're going to be spread out a bit, okay? 13 cars on a quarter-mile track. That's still a lot of action. Like, even for a 13-car race, you're going to see a lot of action taking place. And I really wish that this race was not on the same weekend as Wilkesboro, because then it could maybe get some more action. But yes, like some people are saying in the chat, I do expect cautions in this race, legit cautions. I think we're going to see a lot of people running over each other. I think we're going to see some lap cars probably get crashed. Hopefully not Brad, but we're probably going to see some lap cars get crashed. I think this is going to be one of the more wild ARCA East races. Payouts for this race, in case people were wondering. The usual ARCA East payouts. First place is $5,000. Last place, 16th, is $1,150. But with all the contingency awards that ARCA applies, the maximum total payout for first place is actually $12,750. Second place, $6,325. And third place, $4,050. Now, some fun things I looked at here. There's 4 Fords entered in this race. The 69 of Will Kimmel, the 49 of Jeff Smith, the 12 of Ryan Roulette, and the 10 of Tim Monroe. And, I always say it's kind of smart by Andy Hillenberg because for some fans who don't know is Chevrolet Performance, Ford Performance, and Toyota Racing Development, they give out cash awards, extra purse money awards for the highest finishing makes. There's only 4 Fords in the race, so 3 of them are guaranteed to get extra money. And I would say it's smart by Andy Hillenberg to have 2 Fords in that race because automatically he's going to get an extra $1,750 for running that. I say that's quite smart in my opinion. We only got 4 Chevrolets in this field, and we kind of got a mixture of about the same makes for each car. But yeah, just like how we had Nashville, you got the 7 competitive guys that I told you about. And then you got Tim Monroe, Ryan Roulette, Derek McGraw Jr. As the fast stragglers. But then you got the 65 of Max Zink. The 98 of Shear will probably be the slow stragglers. But even then, I still predict chaos. I think this is going to be one of the wild ARCA races of the season. And I think one of the biggest things that could end up happening in this race, I know the whole chat's been talking about it, and we'll finally start talking about it, is there is no guaranteed cautions in this race. And I feel like that is going to play right into the hands of Luke Fenhaus. Because if they put in their same setup, long run speed, as the tires get older, the 28 gets faster. And if they put that speed in, I think the 18 is in for a rude awakening come Flat Rock. Because the 28 is just going to get faster and faster and faster. That 18 is going to wait for that caution. It's not going to come, and that 28 is going to run him right down. So it's the one thing I love to say whenever we talk about an ARCA race. When we can't predict the winner, it feels good. It really feels good. I know everyone's going to be on good tires. Zachary, if you're still watching, are you guys going to be on stickers for this weekend, or are you guys bringing your own? I feel like we have such an even playing field for this race for a lot of teams. And even these the straggler teams, I don't feel like we'll be that off the pace. But yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of chaos for only 13 cars. Hopefully nobody lower tier budget gets wrecked, because like I said, this is not some half mile. It's a quarter mile short track. There's not a lot of room to get out of the way here. So we will run stickers. Okay, so Zachary will be running on stickers in the race, and they'll be running on scuffs in practice. So if you don't see the 11 that high on the charts in practice, don't blame overall speed. They just are running on scuffs. Expect more speed in the actual race. So thank you for that, Zachary. Excuse me there. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We can't predict the winner. And an Andy Hillenberg car, full-on Andy Hillenberg car, has a legit chance at the win this weekend. And that always puts a smile on my face. And as you guys know, I try to make everything into a positive. While the E-Series is still not perfect, believe me, the E-Series has some flaws. The fact that I'm able to find this much positivity, I'm excited for this. I wish this race was getting nationally broadcasted. Heck, I don't know why Flat Rock is not a main series race. That's, in my opinion, the biggest shocker. This track needs to be on the main series schedule for next year. Can you imagine the main series, 20 plus cars on this track? It would be chaos. The fun chaos, not the bad chaos, like the truck series. All due respect, the truck series is more of a joke than ARCA now, which is so weird to say, because I used to enjoy the truck series. I still do, but not as much, personally. But yeah. So, but yeah, for the going over the entry blank again. Yeah, like I said, Saturday, May 20th, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Now, note there is no. The Cup race is on Sunday, but the truck race is on Saturday. So I'll probably end up watching both of these races at the exact same time. But I'm not missing this race. I'm not missing it live. It just sucks that a race like this, ARCA's return to Flat Rock, won't get many live viewers. I really wish this race was booked a week ago, and Nashville could be this weekend, and Flat Rock could have been last weekend. But still, I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to get a good crowd. It's going to get a good crowd still, because for all the people who can't go home and watch Wilkesboro, for all the people who, don't get a lot of Midwest racing, and plus, Flat Rock doesn't have a lot of grandstands in general, so I don't think it'll be hard to get a sellout. I still think we're going to get a sellout crowd for this race. I know ARCA in that area has been marketing the race like crap, so I expect a good crowd, and I do expect a good race, even for only 13 full race cars. And will we see a surprise winner? I think we will. I think we will for sure, and we could see a turn in the ARCA East Series championship, as this is also the last ARCA East standalone race of the season. The final 4 races will all be combo events. So yeah. Gianni, if that's how, I hope I didn't botch your name. But yeah, not a lot of tracks in that area either. Flat Rock and Toledo are kind of close to each other. Yeah, other than that, there's not a lot of tracks in those areas that would promote a big race like that. I just hope Flat Rock's on the main series for next year. I think Flat Rock's going to show it still has it. Flat Rock's a fun track. So I hope we can get that track on the main series for next year. But it's going to be a fun weekend, guys. Obviously, with Wilkesboro, I know you got NASCAR Throwback Weekend and all that Wilkesboro crap. I'm not the biggest fan of Wilkesboro coming back. It wasn't one of my favorite tracks. Even watching old races as a kid, I'll be honest with you. I watched a lot of Wilkesboro races. wasn't my favorite. Is it a fun track? Yes, but it's not one of my favorite tracks. Still cool to see it come back, though. Absolutely is. But if you're not doing anything on Saturday night and you do have a Flow Racing subscription account and you have a laptop, you can put the truck race on your TV and you can put the ARCA race on your laptop. That's what at least that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the truck race on the TV and put my ARCA race on the laptop. So I don't know how many live updates you guys will be getting on my Twitter. But I'm going to go on a line and say the truck race is going to be an absolute demolition derby. And I think the ARCA race will be better. I think so. I really do think the ARCA race is going to be better in some ways because that truck race is going to be an absolute demolition derby. We all know it's going to be. Everyone wants to win that first truck race at Wilkesboro in a long time. So, yeah. So, you guys can watch that race. That'd be fun. And, yeah, we'll be right back here, hopefully on Tuesday with our review if the entry list comes out again. Otherwise, we'll be back here on Thursday again. And that's kind of how our reviews work. I want to do this show on Tuesdays. But again, if we don't have the entry list, I can't do the show. Yeah, I know. I know NASCAR's last NASCAR race was 96. That's why I said the first truck race at Wilkesboro in a long time. That's why I said put it that way. But yeah, that race is gonna be fun to watch, but also hard to watch in some ways at the same time. But yeah, for oh my God, I didn't even give a winner's pick. What am I doing? God, didn't even give a winner's pick. If I had to give an honest winner's pick here, I'm gonna go on the line and I'm gonna say Billy Venturini. He is my winner's pick. I can't believe I forgot to do that. Billy Venturini is my winner's pick. I think he is going to demolish the field to win because I know Billy. Billy is a crazy guy out there. So sorry, forgot to say that. Billy Venturini is my pick to win. You guys can put yours in the chat or the comment section below because I'm getting out of here, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Thursday nights. I hope you guys enjoy Wilkesboro as usual. It's going to be a fun weekend of racing. And if you have a Flow subscription, check out the ARCA race. It's going to be a lot of fun. And until then, we will see you guys hopefully on Tuesday for the ARCA Racing podcast. And yeah, so long, guys. Colby Evans, starting park car, signing off.